So, good evening and welcome to today's class. Now, today we're going to look at page 69, exercise 4, which is vocabulary and speaking. Primarily, we're going to look at letter A, which is the vocabulary section. But again, feel free to look at exercise B, and maybe those of you using Google Classroom, you can leave your comments and your ideas on the stream. Okay? So, today we're also going to look at page 70, reading and listening, but we're only going to look at exercise A, B and C. Okay, we'll have a look at the rest of the exercises for Monday's class. Okay, so today we're going to do a bit of vocabulary and a bit of reading and listening. Okay, now let's go back to page 69 and let's look at our vocabulary section. Now again, remember, primarily letter A, which is marked. Now, so it says... Very nice question. Look at the words for 6 different kinds of art. With a partner, say what each one is. Now, we've got a portrait, a landscape, a still life, a self-portrait, an abstract painting, and a sculpture. Now, I'm sure most of these will sound familiar, but let's just make sure. Let's double check. So a portrait is a painting, a drawing, or even a photograph of a person, especially of the head and shoulders. Okay, that's a portrait. A landscape is a painting of a view of the countryside. No, a landscape. Well, of course, what is a landscape? Well, it's a picture of landscapes, no? I think it's self-explanatory, no? A still life. This is an interesting one. This is a painting or drawing of objects such as flowers or fruit. In English, we call this a still life. Still life painting. A self-portrait, a painting, etc., that someone does of themselves. And I think I'm going to hazard a guess here, and I'm going to say this is where in English selfie comes from. No, selfie. What is a selfie? It is a self-portrait in photograph form, of course, but it's a self-portrait. No? An abstract painting. Oh, do you like abstract paintings? Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. Let's see. A painting, etc., that doesn't represent people or things in a realistic way, but expresses the artist's ideas about them. And finally, we have a sculpture, which is a work of art that is a solid figure or object made by carving or shaping wood, stone, clay, metal, etc. I think one of the most famous sculptures in the world is Michelangelo's David. No, and I'm sure quite a few of you have seen it. Now you're good travelers, no? So I'm sure you've seen it. Now, so just to revise: a portrait, a landscape, a still life, a self-portrait, an abstract painting, and a sculpture. Excellent. Now remember, letter B, take a look. It says talk in small groups. Now feel free, if anybody's brave enough to send a message to the WhatsApp group, you can send an audio, you can send a text, or even if you feel more comfortable on Google Classroom if you've joined, okay? So you have a look at those questions and let me know your opinion. Right now, let's move on to page 69 and we're going to have a look at reading and listening. Now, letter A is quite interesting. It says, look at a painting by Max Ernst in London's Tate Britain called Forest and Dove. Approximately, when do you think it might have been painted? Well, let's take a look, shall we? Okay, Forest and Dove. Any ideas? What comes to mind? Well, shall we check? Surprisingly, or maybe not, maybe you know, I don't know, but surprisingly, this painting was painted in 1927. Those of you who are artists, what do you think about that? Is it true to the time period? Is it ahead of its time? What do you think? Let me know. Now, let's have a look at letter B. It says, read and listen to the first part of an article called The Secret of the Forest. Then, with a partner, say who the people in the list are and what their connection is to Max Ernst. Now, he's the painter of the painting that we've just discussed. Now, and these are the people. So here we go. We're literally going to listen to the text, okay? So feel free to read along. No, The Secret of the Forest. So essentially, we're going to listen to this text. Are you ready?
4.11 The Secret of the Forest. About 10 days before Christmas in 2003, Werner Spies, one of the world's preeminent experts on 20th century art, took the train from Paris to the picturesque port of Sète on the Mediterranean coast. Spiess, a specialist in the works of the painter Max Ernst, was coming to look at and hopefully authenticate an Ernst painting that had been unknown to him, and thus unknown to the art world, until earlier that year. The painting was La Forêt, the forest, and although it was undated, Spiess thought it had been painted in 1927. Ernst produced a number of forest paintings around that time. They are considered among his most important works. Spiess had previously authenticated another Ernst work, Oiseau en hiver, which was then sold for €500,000. But the scientific analysis suggested that there was some doubt about La Forêt. It apparently included traces of two pigments which had generally only been used by artists after 1945. Spiess, however, preferred to trust his own judgment, and because La Forêt was not dated, he believed Ernst might have used the pigments at an early experimental stage. But he wanted to look at the painting to make sure. The following morning, Helena Beltracchi picked up Spiess and drove him to the beautiful Beltracchi estate. Helena was 45 and a striking woman, intelligent, cultured, animated, with thick blonde hair almost to her waist. Spiess had already met her in Paris and knew something of her background. She was German, from near Cologne, and she had inherited an extensive collection of modern art from her grandfather, the industrialist Werner Jägers. As Helena liked to tell the story, in the 20s and early 30s, her grandfather had been a close friend of Alfred Flechtheim, the most important modern art dealer in Germany, and had bought many paintings from him. After Hitler came to power in 1933, Flechtheim, who was Jewish, fled to London. His galleries were seized and his art collection was sold by the Nazis because the paintings were considered disreputable. But Werner Jägers managed to hide the paintings he had bought from Flechtheim, including a number of works by Max Ernst, which Helena later inherited. She liked to show potential buyers an old black-and-white photograph of her grandmother, Josefina Jägers, sitting in the family dining room in an austere black dress, strings of pearls around her neck, with some of the art collection on the wall behind her. Helena was now gradually selling these paintings, to which faded Sammlung Flechtheim, Flechtheim Collection labels were attached on the back. The Ernst painting, La Forêt, hung upstairs in the master bedroom. Taking it into the light, Spiess was thrilled with what he saw. The intensity of the colour, the power of the imagery. Despite the scientific analysis, Spiess had no doubt he was holding a genuine, previously unknown Max Ernst in his hands. Following this authentication, a Swiss gallery owner paid Helena and her husband Wolfgang Beltracchi €1.7 million for the painting in November 2004. He quickly resold La Forêt for a small profit, and in 2006 it was exhibited at the Max Ernst Museum in Brühl, Germany, adding to its value. La Forêt was finally sold later that year for $7 million. From the early 90s onwards, many more paintings made a similar journey from the Beltracchi's lovely home to the walls of the world's top collectors and museums. There was just one little problem.
Now I wonder what that little problem was. We'll have to wait until Monday to find out. So let's have a look. Hopefully you were able to read along with your book. Now let's see. What about exercise B? Question B. It says, read and listen to the first part of the article and say what their connection, these people's connection to Max Ernst is. So shall we take a look? Did you get them? Now again, if necessary, read it again. Absolutely no problem. Read it again if you need to. Now, so we've got Werner Spies was an expert on 20th century art and a specialist in the works of Max Ernst. In 2003, he went to authenticate La Forêt, though thought to be by Ernst, and said that it was by him. Now, there was some doubt, but he said it was by him. So Helena Beltracchi was a rich German woman who was selling La Forêt. She had inherited it, with a lot of other paintings from her grandfather. Then we have Werner Jägers, that's Helena's grandfather, a rich industrialist who collected paintings, including La Forêt, which he had to hide during the Second World War. Then we have Alfred Flechstein, an important art dealer in Germany in the 1920s and 30s. He sold a lot of artwork to Werner Jägers and they became friends. He moved to London in 1933, and finally Wolfgang Beltracchi, is Helena's husband. He and his wife received 1.7 million euros from a Swiss gallery owner for La Forêt. Now, did you get all of those? Well done. Now it says read the article again. So pause the video, take your time, read the article and answer the questions with a partner. Now, of course, we don't have a partner, but you can make a note of them. Now, question number 1. What controversy was there about La Forêt? Number 2. How had the painting ended up in Helena Beltracchi's house? Number 3. What was Spies, I think they call him, conclusion about La Forêt? What evidence was it based on? What happened to the painting next? Now again, pause the video. Have a look at the text, see what you can find. Let's correct, shall we? Now, so question number 1. What was the controversy? So it was undated, but Spies thought it had been painted in 1927. However, some of the paints used in it had only generally been used after 1945. But you remember, he thought that perhaps through some experimentation or some experimental technique, that Ernst had in fact used these paints, as far back or as early as 1927. Now, Helena had inherited the painting from her grandfather, because question 2, how had the painting ended up in her house? So she had inherited it from her grandfather, Werner Jägers, who may have bought it from the dealer Alfred Flechstein. Now, question number 3. Spies concluded, what was his conclusion? That the painting was definitely by Max Ernst. Now, he based it on the fact that Ernst had painted a lot of paintings of forests. The colours were intense and it was very powerful. So in spite of some perhaps doubt or some possible controversy about the date, he used the context of his body of work. And question number 4, what happened to the painting next? After Spies authenticated it, a Swiss gallery owner bought it. Then he resold it, and in 2006 it was shown in the Max Ernst Museum. Now, did you get those? How did you get on with The Secret Life of the Forest? Now, the next question, which we're going to do on Monday, is what do you think the little problem was? Any speculation there? Any ideas? Maybe maybe you're familiar with this story. If not, don't worry. We'll continue on Monday. Okay? Enjoy the weekend. Thanks for